Welcome to our workshop. I'm Lorena Kelly with SaskMusic. This is Carly Gowan with SaskMusic and Brandy Exner at the back there. Thank you for coming. I am going to do a little intro of each of our speakers here. You guys feel free to jump in and add stuff. Okay, so right beside me we've got Rick Fenton. Rick has made his living in the music industry for over years, starting out as a musician.
That's very kind.
Starting out as a musician in the mid-70s, well, I just gave it away. Then landing at the CBC in 1981, where he produced everything from radio drama to classical and popular music in Calgary, Toronto, and Edmonton. He moved to Winnipeg in 2001 to take on the position of artistic director for the Winnipeg Folk Festival. After 4 seasons, he started his own company and produced television shows and live events for the Olympics, Juno Fest, the Queen's Visit, Premier's Conference, and many others. Rick's other home over the years has been the recording studio, where he's produced over 20 albums for artists as diverse as Big Dave McLean, Greyhound Tragedy, Bill Bourne, and Ian Tyson. For the last 4 years, Rick has been the executive director of the Western Canadian Music Alliance and the BreakOut West Music Festival, Conference, and the Western Canadian Music Awards. He still plays guitar. When do you find time for that?
About once every 3 months. It's a really bad band.
Oh. So we'll talk about
We
your
refuse to showcase for anybody.
Yeah, so the Angry Dads. So is it really Angry Dads?
It is all dads. It's a bunch of old studio rats. It's much louder than you would think.
Oh, good. Well, you're angry, so.
Right. If you had to pay tuition for university, you'd be angry.
And next to Rick, we've got Lynne Bailey. Thank you for coming, Lynne. Prairie Debut is a block booking network dedicated to the promotion of professional classical musicians and world music artists. Working with existing provincial touring network organizations, concert presenters, and arts councils in Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Alberta, Prairie Debut develops performance tours which enable communities of all sizes to bring world-class artists to their concert audiences. As executive director for Prairie Debut since 1996, Lynne has been the start-to-finish coordinator for 38 concert tours in the Prairie provinces and the Yukon. Each year, Prairie Debut works with the organization's selected artists on their marketing and showcase performance preparation for provincial contact events. She continues with the planning and contracting of the tour and finally, the travel logistics for the tour itself. From a small Manitoba town, Lynne thoroughly enjoys working with the presenters who bring these wonderful performances to their communities. Did I miss any?
No, just small, really small towns. Nope, that's it.
Okay. And on the end, we've got Kevin Korchinski. Kevin is currently the executive director of the Organization of Saskatchewan Arts Councils. OSAC books over 250 performances and visual arts tours a year in Saskatchewan communities. Every fall, OSAC holds its showcase event for its presenters. Prior to being the executive director, Kevin was the performing arts coordinator at OSAC, directly responsible for routing tours and the showcase application process. Kevin has also worked in the radio industry for a long time and spent several years as a Saskatchewan sales and promotion representative for Warner Music Canada. Hey, thank you all for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
So we're going to keep this fairly informal. If anybody has questions throughout, feel free to throw a hand up and we will try to get to everything you want to know. So if I can just get you each to go through and tell the audience a little bit about your specific event, specifically pertaining to, what kind of conference do you have and what does your showcase element look like? Rick?
Sure. BreakOut West is here, the 27th to 30th of September here in Regina. It has a conference element, it has a showcase element. We have 50 bands. We used to have a lot more. We kind of scaled that back a few years ago. I guess we felt that it was better if we were going to bring in all these international buyers. We bring in international buyers from all over the world, music supervisors from LA. We were just in with JP and a bunch of people and SEMA at Canada Blast in Texas at South by Southwest. We did an event at the Great Escape in Brighton. So really our job is to go out and find people who will see you play, and when they see you play, hopefully find something for you as far as international touring. We've had some good successes this year. We just recently found out, actually in LA, we was talking to Sam Ramis from CBS, and he just placed Rami Mays on The Good Wife for 1 minute and 19 seconds over the credits. that's a very good thing. And so those are the kind of things, the kind of people we bring in. Hope you all come. We have also a conference where obviously those people come and speak. We do about 131 one-on-ones. Last year, 131, hence the strange figure, because I remember last year's, where people sit down and talk about their businesses. We're trying to get away sort of from the talking head panels, because we find that our membership, which is your membership, that's what they want, and by golly, our job is to give them what they want. And so sort of B2B, business to business, each of you out there, I'm sure, being business people in one form or another, whether you're an artist or a record company or a booking agent or anything else, really, the publicist, et cetera, et cetera. And then we do the award show, which is sort of a celebration of excellence, and a bunch of other stuff that will be going on. We're just about to start talking about a kickoff concert on the Friday, outdoors at Victoria Park, so that'll be our event, and that's enough of me shilling for my own event. So.
Kevin, you go next.
OSAC is what they call a national network, national presenter network. Each of the areas or provinces has something similar. We all operate on somewhat the same level, although slightly differently. In OSAC's case, we have 35 arts councils that do performing arts season every year. There's 50 arts councils in total. Some of those only do visual arts. We have two separate components, or three separate programs. In 2011-2012, which is our current fiscal year, we toured 11 Saskatchewan artists that are living here, plus another 4 with Saskatchewan roots like Susie Vinnick or people like that. 155 performances by those artists, about $450,000 in artist fees. We also have 5 artists doing 140 shows as part of our school program, which we call junior concerts. We have a showcase every October, the 3rd week-ish. This year we're in Prince Albert, October 19th to 21, I believe it is. There's 2 days of showcases. We have 15 showcases that take place over those 2 days. They are fully teched showcases. This year we're in the Rawlinson. Last year we were at the Regina Performing Arts Center, and the year that Melanie and Cecile showcased for us, we were in North Battleford at a less than ideal room, but still a room. Everything is, the guys from GV Audio have done sound for us for 25 years, and come in and the artists get a sound check, and they get a 20-minute showcase to go with that. We have approximately 250 people that attend the showcase every year. 80% of our arts councils are represented at any one time, so when you're playing at the showcase, you're actually playing for the presenters. So, and that's really us in a nutshell. Like I said, each of the different areas of the country have showcases, and we'll touch on that a little bit later. And then Lynne goes to 3 or 4 different ones.
Yeah. So Prairie Debut, we don't have a showcase event or an event that he's talking about. What we do is we take artists to perform, to showcase, and I'm actually a seller at these events. So why I'm here on this panel, well, I wasn't quite sure, but I think I know, is because I help artists prepare to go and do a good job at these events. How to prepare ahead of time, how to get yourself organized. That's what our specialty is, and that's what we do. We don't host the events. And also, I'm really good at attending all these events, and they're great. And we do it all across Canada, in every region. And I actually am on a national presenting board, and where we have a national conference. That's for the entire country. Yeah. That's it.
Very good. I had number 1 down here as what are the benefits of showcases, but I think we're going to probably arrive at that by the end of our discussion. So we're just going to skip down to applying to showcase, the processes for each of your events specifically, and your thoughts in general on the application process. There's been a lot of changes over the years of things like your sonic bids and paying fees to showcase, and now there's SoundCloud and a whole bunch of different other ways that places are accepting showcase materials. So maybe we can just talk a little bit about what you guys look for in your applications, what you look for in a strong application. Are there any red flags? Things like, you know, Rick, do people have to know you to get a showcase? You want to bust some myths and stuff like that?
Well, they don't have to know me. We should. Do you want to start? Like, we should go right to left, left to right. Or I'm always gonna. It's gonna get pedantic after a while. So,
Sure, I can start. With in the case of the presenter networks, there's a couple of different ways. We have had a standard application process for a number of years where we ask for a specific amount of information, and the biggest red flag is if someone doesn't read the application and fill it out the way that we've asked. We are in the process of changing. 4 of the presenter networks, including ourselves, are involved in a website called I Want to Showcase, and Skip Taylor, who's our new performing arts coordinator, will have a one sheet for everyone later, but it's basically a one-stop shopping website where you can apply for Ontario, Contact East, Alberta Contact, and as of 2013, OSAC's Contact, with one application. There's still 4 different fees. We do charge fees for application because it costs a lot of man hours to go through all these. And there is registration fees for conferences if you're selected, but it's pretty minimal. It's like $40 to register, to apply, or $50, I guess. But starting next year with this process, literally you can click through and all of us will get the same information. You can apply, like I'm going to pick on Melanie because she's right in my eye line here, but if, you know, Melanie's already applied for us, so she doesn't need to apply, or she may not want to apply again so soon for OSAC, but with this one website she can apply for Alberta and Ontario and Contact East all at the same time, and with using all the same materials. So it's all digital. It's something that was designed a few years ago. We're really looking forward to being part of it. None of the networks, I'm going to say, I don't think any of them are involved in Sonic bids. I know a lot of the festivals and I don't know if you guys do or not, but use Sonic bids. It's kind of not where our side of the industry has gone. We've always either had our own system or, like I said, this new I Want to Showcase system. So it's very cool. I've been on looking through the process, and from our side it'll make it very, very easy for us and for the artists and agents as well. So we're really looking forward to it. The biggest thing about applications, read what you're being asked to provide and try and provide it. And there's usually a contact name somewhere on there, and they will help you through the process. If, you know, on any, it doesn't have to be ours, on any of the applications, they can help you through the process, because it's, you know, there's a lot of applications that come in, and pieces being missed doesn't move yours to the top.
And how many applications do you guys get that typically year?
This year we're probably currently averaging about 100 to 120 over the last few years. That's for 14 slots.
Right.
So it's a pretty brutal process. But it's the I Want to Showcase numbers are a little higher usually because of the ease of application. The networks that have already started using it have found that their numbers have gone up. So.
And in your particular case, is there anything that would make somebody stand out? Like just generally a really strong package, or is there a particular detail that you guys look for?
I used to work for our president of Warner's used to always say it's in the grooves, which is an old record saying, and it's still pretty much there. Like the music does make a difference. You know, it is why we all do what we do. We are a visual society now, and we're finding more and more. We're juried. I don't think we said that. But we actually strike a jury that selects the artists. I don't, or Skip doesn't go through and pick them on our own. They're all juried by our a selection of our Arts Council members. So it takes away our influences, but it does help when we, you know, when it's good package, a video if possible, decent quality video, And because everything we see now is on a, 50-inch flat screen, it seems, it does make a difference, so.
Very good. Lynn?
No, I'll not add into this because I don't have one of these processes, so you go ahead.
Well, I'm going to speak not to just our event. I actually have nothing to do with the selection process of our event. I mean, we hire festival producers. We have, because it's awards-based, we have a whole nomination process. Then we have a series of jurors that are peers that go through this whole thing, that we narrow it down to a maximum of 50 per category from hundreds. I think we had, I don't know, 2,300 applications this year. And then they bring it down to 5. We invite the nominees first, some of them. Then we also look for kind of hip bands where things are happening and things are going on. And we base that on a lot of things. I guess it would be probably, I think, more interesting to talk a bit about, we're in the selling business too. I mean, our business is to try and get people to get to other events. So once we do that selection process, whether it's us or whatever, we work a lot getting, say, someone like Martin Elbone from Glastonbury who comes every year, or Brad First from South by Southwest, and getting in front of people. So what I always go through when we think about those slots that we put together is obviously the music. I mean, without the music, there's absolutely nothing. So that's a given. So we assume that it's incredibly talented, that it fits, that it's beautiful, that you are professional, that you work hard, that you've created a craft that is somehow set you above. So to a certain extent, there's an A&R component to it that's purely musical based. Above and beyond that, we don't really want to put people that have a chance to tour internationally. They need to have a team. I mean, we talk about team all the time, and team doesn't have to be a manager and agent, but it has to be a cohesive, the ability to tour, the ability to do these things. That, in other words, if heaven hopes that Martin, I'm going to keep using Martin because he comes to mind because he's a mate of mine, I just saw him 2 weeks ago, says, okay, you're going to play, I'd like you to play stage 2 at Glastonbury. Well, that doesn't mean you play stage 2 at Glastonbury. That means you need to have a tour. That means you have to have the support of people around you. You need to have funding. You need to be able on the ground. You need to do P2s. You need to have all the stuff that I'm sure you know all about. Are you going to go to Eastern Europe? It's not as easy as we think just to go to the EU, show up with a couple guitars and start playing. So that certainly comes into effect. So not what are you, but also why are you and who are you? And why should we be involved? I mean, because if we're going to go to bat for an artist, which we do all the time, we want to know that we're behind something that's very real and that has a real chance of success. And that trickles down. I mean, we only do this, bands start happening in a sort of 2 to 3 year process, I think we'll agree. And then they're on their own. They now have that team. They've now toured Europe. They've now toured the United States. They don't need us anymore. But to get to that point where you can make, and we'll talk a bit about the physical structures of showcases and what you need and what that team is. But to get to that point where it's a marketable product, and I'm sorry, I don't like the word product any more than anybody else does. But at the same time, we're all in the marketing business. And yeah, YouTube, there are many ways of marketing. As far as physical applications go, I guess I see them for everything from South by Southwest to everything else. I gotta be honest with you, we got rid of Sonic Bids 4 years ago because I think it's a smokescreen. I think it's a way for artistic directors not to have to interact with artists. I'll be honest, that's honestly the truth. I don't like the way they upsell after you join. That's why we got rid of them. They phone you all the time going, you need more gigabytes of memory to put a bigger video up. Getting in front of people, playing any of these things, and getting to know those people, and we'll talk about what happens in a showcase, is just more important because they will recognize you, and they'll recognize your music more than anything else. I'm gonna sound like the old hippie because I probably am the old hippie, but music really is the number one thing. And then to express your ability as an artist or an agent, a manager, if you're representing an artist, to broadcast that and get heard above the noise, I call it sort of this noise level, is really the tough trick, I think.
Yeah. So Rick, given that, I mean, like you said, you go through, in your case, the nominees first and try and fill some of your showcase spots that way. There's a very limited amount of spots. So does an artist that you've never heard of really stand a chance, or what can they do to get your attention to get to that level?
There's a whole bunch of networks of people, really. I mean, one of the most interesting things to me lately is the Polaris Prize. I mean, we have a relationship with Steve Jordan, who I know Skip knows from his days. I mean, quite frankly, if Skip phoned me and said something's really cool, if the music industry associations go, this is something you need to keep your eye on. Because those kind of people don't phone up and just say, I went to the bar on Friday and saw a cool band. Because that means if they've already phoned us or Brad at South by or you or whatever, they've already, one, seen them twice, know whether they're real or not, know if they have the ability to tour, know if they have good people around them, and then make the pitch. Because nobody wants to look like a, sorry, I almost said asshole, idiot. You know, you don't want to go to, I don't want to go to anybody and call you up and go, you know, so I was out drinking tequila last night and saw this great punk rock band, and they're the new Ramones. And you go, great, who do they work with?
Okay, good answer. I think we'll leave off showcasing for a second and talk about the planning portion. Now, if you're going to an event like, well, let's use BreakOut West because it's one of the next ones coming.
Well, very kind of you. Thank you.
If an artist isn't showcasing, like oftentimes they don't bother going to the conference at all. It's like, okay, well, I didn't get to a showcase, so I'm not going to go to the conference. What's your argument?
Well, I mean, we can turn that argument around. I mean, and I'll use a band actually that we took down to. Well, they were accepted at South by, and so we did a showcase on 6th Street with SEMA at the Canada House. It was Foam Lake. You're up and coming, great band by the way, big fan. Actually, that's a band I might drink tequila and go, wow, that's really good.
From Foam Lake, it better be vodka.
But yeah. But they came down, and because it was their first time there, they got a showcase. It was 8 o'clock at night. There wasn't, a ton of people. It was a good turnout. It obviously got bigger and bigger as the night went on. 8 o'clock, at South by is a pretty tough showcase. And it was someone from SEMA and I said, that's not your showcase experience, that 45 minutes you play. I mean, it certainly is. But they impressed upon them to stick around, go to the conference, meet people, go to every mixer, come to Canada House every night, reaffirm yourself and go, hi, my name's, and I don't know anybody from Foam Lake, Jimmy from Foam Lake. And, and they go, oh yeah, no, we saw you guys. And from that, long story short, too late, they actually got signed to a small independent label deal through, help me, what's her name, Shannon.
Oh yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah. They got a U.S. manager, and none of that stuff, none of those people saw their showcase. So I guess where I'm going with this is really is important to go to the conference, collect business cards, meet people, network, talk about who you are, sort of write your own narrative beyond, which is certainly important, of course. Playing the music is the top of the pyramid, but it is a pyramid.
It's the one of the things that I've found over the years of doing the contact events. There's the showcase world. The reason there's 3 of us up here is that the showcase world is really 2 different worlds completely. The world that Rick lives in and the world that Lynne and I live in are completely different as far as showcases go. And like our showcases are 20 minutes long. They're structured completely differently. It's a soft seat theater as a rule, or a sit down attentive audience, not trying to fight the noise at the bar kind of stuff. And so they're completely different types of showcases. But the other part of it is exactly the same. If you're not going to do the pre and post conference work and the during the conference work, then actually attending the showcase or your 20 minutes on stage is one of the least important things that's going to happen over the course of the weekend, if you're not willing to put in the rest of the work. And that's one of the areas that I think a lot of artists who are trying to break into the network, the presenter networks as a whole. And I spent 15 years at a record label, and don't feel bad if you haven't heard of presenter networks, because we hadn't either. Like, it's a part of the world that most of the Canadian industry hasn't been aware of over the course of the years. But it's a completely different type of showcasing, but the work involved is exactly the same whether you're doing BreakOut West or OSAC. The pre and post and work is exactly the same. Just the length of the showcase and we start at 8 o'clock and finish by 10 on Saturday night and get 5 showcases through that time, right? So, you know, it's a little different. And, you know, when you go out on tour with us, you're not starting in a bar at 11:30, you're starting in a soft seat or in a theater style setting or a coffee house like this at 7:30 or 8 o'clock. So it's a different type of showcase completely. So.
Good. Let's talk a little bit about that preparation then. Maybe Lynne, you want to kick us off on this one. Is there a difference in how you prepare to attend an event if you're showcasing or if you're not showcasing?
Yes, there is. And I just want to ask a question because I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage here because I think some of you guys know some of you guys, and I don't know anybody, for heaven's sakes. So has anybody here ever been to a contact event? Put up your hand if you have. Yes. Have you ever showcased? So a few of you have showcased at contact events in Saskatchewan?
Like specifically the OSAC event, first of all.
Yeah, specifically the OSAC. Any other provincial ones?
Contact East or Pacific Contact. Or
Alberta, Manitoba.
Alberta, Manitoba, Kapakoa?
No.
Any? No? Okay. So most of you, or a number of you, have actually been to contact events, so you know what they are. The most important thing that if you haven't been to one, before you decide to go, to make an informed decision, go to an event. Go to it and participate in it as an observer. Even if you only go for one day, but go for the entire day and start out at 8 o'clock in the morning with the registration and go all through the day and sit at the meals and see the presenters come and go and then go to the contact room and hang out there and see how everybody works in the contact room and then go to the showcases. It makes a huge difference to be prepared that way so that you know what's going on. It's like a different world. It's a trade show for performing arts. I mean, that's the bottom line, isn't it? Is that what it is? And in any other business, you would prepare yourself as well as you could, but we expect that you will do the same in this business. It really is important. So, plan ahead, about a year ahead. That's what it takes, is about a year ahead to get all of your material ready, to decide if it's worth the investment of time and money, because it does cost to attend these events, and if you can access funds to attend events from Canada Council for the Arts, from different agencies to help pay for that.
Factor in our business.
Factor, yes, yeah, factor in your business.
Arts board.
Right. So it is not something that you think about in July and you're going to showcase in October, because it just doesn't work that way. Also, you want to go and see how other people do it. See what their booths look like. See what seems to work. And that's my best hint for how to prepare. Prepare a year in advance, at least.
Can you, maybe you and Kevin both can explain what the contact room is for those people who haven't been to these events?
We were trying to come up with an easy way to explain this earlier, but it's like a mini trade show. In our case, there's about 35 tables in a banquet room usually, or somewhere close to the concert venue, where each of the agents or artists have set up a display that our presenters can go to talk to the artist, it's a relationship business. The art presenters want to get to know the artist a little better, and the artists want to get to know our presenters a little better. And so it's a mini trade show with, a lot of the agents who've done this for a few years. They've got pop-up displays like this. They've got one sheets with a little bit of information about themselves, their contact information, and a laptop with their DVD playing or videos playing or something like that, and some music that can be given away for the presenters to take back to their committees to make the decisions.
And what it is, typically, these
She's
tables,
the queen of the contact room, so.
with an aisle down the center, and you stand in front of your table to present yourself, all right? And you do it to the best of your ability. Kevin's talking about the pop-ups, like back here. Well, not everybody has pop-ups like that, right? But Staples sells a fabulous thing that works sort of almost like that you get somebody on a computer to do, to make it, and it looks really good. You have to have good material because people will expect it. And they'll expect you to be there, be prepared, be able to talk about yourself well, and to give them the material that they require. Now, sometimes they want something hard, copy in their hands to take home, right there, to put it in their bag. They want it. A lady that I meet every year in Saskatchewan wants to take home a CD because her whole committee goes home in the car with her, and they listen to the CDs on the way home, and by the time they get back to that town, they have their whole season decided because they've listened to all those CDs. Now, if you don't have your CD on your table, you're not in that pile, are you? So you're not getting booked by that community. I have another presenter who comes up to me and says, I don't want to carry a thing. She carries a purse that's this big. Honest to God, I don't know how she lives. I really don't. She wants everything by email. She wants an electronic press kit. So that means that you also have to have, in advance, ready to go, your website, some YouTube links, everything, so that somebody can look you up and get everything electronically. That lady also will take a one-pager, and on your one-pager you have a picture of yourself that represents you in the best manner that you can. All of your information and a little bit about your bio, what you've been, where you've been, and your website information, that type of thing. So this is what happens. People walk along, they pick it up, they think about it, and that's it. But it's and the most important thing is that there's a schedule for it. The contact room is only open at certain times during a conference. So it's between 2 and 4 in the afternoon and 7 and 9 at night. It's imperative that there is someone at your booth every single second that door is open, because if you miss people walking by, you're missing an opportunity. I'll get down off my soapbox now.
No, that's good.
Can I? Yes?
Yeah.
Did you have a question?
Is it okay if I ask a question?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a question for Rick about going to BreakOut or something like South by. What are your top sort of do's and don'ts recommendations for artists?
I think really it's get as many people around you as you can. When I said to people before, your first time to South by, the first time I took a band down to South by, we had great advice from someone who said, if the worst thing that happens to you is you meet a bunch of bands who know where people play in Texas, and you end up with a place to sleep on their couch, that's actually a really good thing. Find out who else is there. I mean, talk a bit about if there are other Canadians. Let's look at South by. I mean, SEMA's always down there. You don't necessarily have to be a SEMA showcase, big barbecue sheepdogs band to take advantage of all the stuff that they do. You can, work hard with your music industry association. Find out if they've got anybody down there. Top 5 or 6 things to do. Go to everything. Go to as many things as you can. Simple things. I make sure that every band goes out before they go, and every band member has a business card with their name on it, so that when your agent or manager or publicist, or if you don't have any of those things, you're not sort of going, hey dude, I'll contact you later. Like this should go, hey, I'm the bass player, here's my card. I mean, there are things like, you always hear, don't oversell yourself, but at the same time, it's kind of polite, hang back. Find out who's going, try and get them. I mean, that's really tried. Of course, you find out who's going to the conference, you find out who's going, you try to get them to your showcase. Find out if they're there. I also recommend to bands that invariably there's 1 or 2 members of a band that are actually better dealing with people after the gig. let them do that. You know, maybe the other 3 or 4 band members have to take the gear downstairs and put it in the van. If you've got a lead singer and she or he is incredibly freaking charming, let them work their magic. You know, what was the one we saw today that we got a friend of mine from England said, you know, don't dance in front of the band that's on before you. That's a joke. But, you know, I think a lot of them is common sense, but really one of that is the communication. I think that going in and writing the narrative of what you want to have happen before you go there. In other words, you know, it sounds simple, but do I want a manager? Do I want an agent? Do I want a record deal? I mean, first of all, let's take the record deal. You know, I mean, there's a reason why Skip's not a Universal and you're not a Warner or whatever. But there are a lot of great independent record people out there, and there are a lot of, you know, there are a lot of great managers, there are a lot of great agents. It takes a bit of groundwork to get them there. Once they are there, make sure after the gig you talk to them. Like I said, I've seen this so many times before where they go, you know, afterwards said, yeah, you know, that dude that we invited came to our showcase. I said, great, what did you say to him? And he goes, well, you know, we had to put the gear away, and then we had to go to the next gig, and then we had parking problems going. So, like, you know, get off stage and talk to them and say, hey, thanks. And, you know, if they're engaged with someone, wait politely beside them and say, you know, here's my card. And it was great you came, and can we set up a meeting tomorrow? Does that make any sense? Am I answering your question?
Yeah, sort of.
I mean, the other thing that I really think about showcases, like really think, is when you're playing, your sound is going to suck, particularly in a rock venue, but it's probably true in a lot of them. I mean, if you get a great sound person, when we do events now, we just hire a sound person. We will not use the festival sound person because they're burned out, they're tired, they haven't had any, you know, they might be on some substance that we don't even know about yet. And you know, you're investing this huge amount of money. If you have someone who can do sound, do lights, represent the band, make sure the hotel is there, take them. You know, I mean, Factor lets you take those people. You know, sign that up. If I'm going too long, by the way, all you have to do is do this and I'll stop. But rehearse your first song so that you can play it without monitors, because you won't have any. So, you know, have your best song out front and be able to sing it without being able to hear a thing, so you can just nail it. All of us as festival directors, as bookers, the first thing we want to see is a happy band. There's no point standing there screaming at the sound man no matter how bad that sound person is, it's not going to endear us to the band. The band that gets up there, kicks ass, can do it without smiles and says, hey dude, can I have a little more, you know, vocal in the monitor? I love those people. The band that gets turned to and says, we're running a little late, can you cut a song off the set and finish on time? That goes, yeah, no problem, man, we're just here to make happy. I can guarantee you that every buyer in the room notices that and goes, those guys rock, those girls rock. That's cool. Because we're all going to be in that situation where that's what we want you to do. And that's the kind of stuff that I think impresses people. Sorry, that's a long point.
No. Can I just add something to that? There's a little bit farther down with the bad showcases and the good showcases.
Sorry, I jumped in.
No. That's not what I'm saying. A bad showcase that I saw at a really big event with a really big artist, and he was up there and he just ripped into the sound guy, and you know, I can't hear myself, you know, and everybody that was sitting around was so uncomfortable, and we know that after that showcase, he didn't get anything, because nobody wants to work with somebody like that, you know? So what you said is absolutely true. So put on the happy face, you know?
The other side of that is there's a number of us who attend multiple conferences in a year. We also, the networks have a conference call every 6 to 8 weeks where we just talk about stuff. And after showcase season in October, one of the things that gets talked about in November or January when we have the next call is, man, I can't believe how great that artist was showcasing, or I can't believe how that artist ripped into the volunteer sound guy or the professional sound guy or the volunteers backstage. And it's a small world that we live in, and we all talk. The same way you guys talk about venues and the shitty bar owners, those of us who are in the Saucy Presenter Network world all talk about the same kind of stuff. And it's for exactly the same reason. It's just like none of us want to deal with it, right? And in our case, in OSAC's case, our volunteer base is 70% women over 65. I don't want an artist out there making their life miserable because there's two people in this room that hear about it, and one's sitting here and one's sitting over there. And we don't need that. And the other artists that are on the road as OSAC artists don't need that either. So we're very conscious of that, and we really pay attention to it. So.
Just to touch really quickly, the SEMA that Rick's referring to is the Canadian Independent Music Association. They do a lot of touring with Canadian artists overseas, export type situations. We were just working with them on our events in the UK and Spain and so on. And so they're an association that you'll really want to know as you progress in your career. Maybe you're already at that stage. If you check out their website now and then, we often try to post events through SaskMusic if we think they're of interest to the general membership. But you should also check out their website regularly if you're at a stage where you're ready to go export yourself overseas and do some, really major conferences. Anything to add on that? You guys might know more about it.
As far as SEMA goes?
As far as SEMA goes, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just go look at what they're doing at Canada Blast. I mean, if you sort of know what they're doing, they're usually about 6 to 8 months ahead, then you can sort of start thinking about, how you would fit into that and how that might work for you. I mean, obviously, if it's something like Great Escape, which is mainly a pop music, rock music thing, that's not going to be as useful to, say, a folk musician as Celtic Connections in Glasgow, which, we've had a lot of success at. And, courses for horses, right? I mean, there's not much point if you're a four-piece classical mandolin ensemble applying for South by Southwest, in all honesty. But that stuff is all posted online. I'll give you my email address later. There's a guy named Shane Shapira that's actually hired by SEMA. His job is to help Canadian artists tour overseas. And if you give me an email, I'll give you my card and I'll send you his email and you can bug Shane. Tell him I said, hi.
Yeah, Shane's very approachable.
Shane's very approachable.
Yeah. If I can go back for a second, I had a question about the contact room events because, like Kevin at OSAC, artists can just sign up to be in the contact room, correct?
You don't have to showcase to be in the contact room. There's, I'm going to say $240, but it's off the top of my head, I believe that's what it is. And that gets you all your meals for the weekend, a 6-foot table in the contact room, and full access to all the workshops and everything. So it's, it's an investment. I would recommend, I'll mention something at the end about an idea that we came up with this week in the office to try and encourage some of you to come out just for showcase, not necessarily for the contact room, but I would just want to really emphasize what Lynne had said about trying to attend an event somewhere. I think it's, I know my first one was completely overwhelming, and I'm sure as an artist it's got to be even more so. So yeah, there are, you're more than welcome to attend as a non-showcasing artist as well. So.
Right. And Lynne, do you find, like, as you're talking about standing out in front of your table and selling yourself,
Right.
I know a lot of artists who wouldn't be comfortable doing that. Do people ever bring, like, a friend or somebody who's really good at selling and have them?
Absolutely. Absolutely they can. And as long as the person that they bring knows the information, okay? Because people are going to come up and there's going to be 22 booths, right?
30.
30, yes. And they have to make it through all that in a certain amount of time. So that means that, they've scheduled 10 minutes per booth. So that you have to know the information. So they're going to be asking, when are you available to tour? How much do you cost? What technical requirements does your show have? Do you have a stage plot? Do you have audio? Do you have video? Do you have any YouTube? So the person who is at your booth representing you needs to know the answer to all of those questions, all right? They have to be able to present you well. It's really nice, even if you can't even speak, it's really nice for the artists themselves to be there, if they can. It makes a big difference, particularly if you're a showcasing artist. After you've had a showcase performance, the very next contact room, people are going to be flocking to your booth to book you. Yeah, right? That's what it's all about. And they'd like to talk to you. And they want to hear you speak because they've heard you play, but they really like to get to know more about you as a person. So that's the important thing, is that you can have somebody else at the table, but they have to know all the right answers and they have to have the material there.
Okay, any other questions at this point?
Do you have a question, Carl?
I was asking about same up thing. She
Oh.
covered that.
Okay, cool. Okay, just again, feel free to put up your hand if anything comes up as we're speaking. Okay, so let's say there's an event coming and someone's decided that they do want to check it out. If I'm just going to an event as a delegate and I represent an artist, what should I do? We're 3 months out from the conference now. Should I be contacting people and setting up meetings with a person from Six Shooter to talk to them, or is that completely pointless? Just give an overview of.
Well, again, I'm going to talk about all events. I mean, there's a side of me that says if you're not representing an artist that's playing there, I mean, it's great for professional development. I can certainly see why your manager, agent, publicist would want to be there to further their career. It's, you know what I mean? Like, I always worry about stuff like that. I mean, certainly if you're an agent and you have a roster of 5 or 6 bands, I would encourage you to go and represent those 5 or 6 bands and pass on the CDs, meet with the music supervisors, talk to bands as much. I'm trying to sort of run it through my mind what level we're talking about. So if you're a manager or an agent or a label and you've got 6 or 7 bands, or you're the size of the agency group or something like that and you're going to find bands, then yeah, of course. Certainly I think that it's important, that they're going to do that anyway. I mean, I'm not going to tell Ralph James how to do business at an event. And most people that have reached, if they're working for a Pecan or they're working for whatever, they know how to do all that stuff, or you guys,
right.
or whatever. So they're going to go, they're going to set up the meetings they want. I don't know if I'm answering the question. If it's your manager and basically they're a friend or there's someone that started managing them, I would, quite frankly, hesitate sending them somewhere without them actually being able to see the band. I'll be honest with you. I think that at the end of the day, we're in the, all of us, we talk about this all the time, we all try to be so cool and we get to see these bands and stuff, but we really are in love with bands and music and artists. And so that, for most of us, I think, is the first point of contact, is falling in love with somebody who plays. I don't think that's ever going to change. I think you fall in love with music. I don't think any of us would be here if we didn't fall in love with music. There are probably several things I might be better at than what I'm doing right now if I didn't, end up like an idiot buying a guitar when I was 15. So anyway, that's one side of it. But then certainly, I mean, if you're working with a bigger agency, I don't think you have that problem. They're there to represent you and they know how to do that. That's kind of a mushy answer, isn't it?
Kind of. I guess what we get asked a lot is like is the means of showcasing so that you have a reason to go and introduce yourself to people, even if they don't catch your showcase. Like,
oh yes,
right.
Sorry. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, if they don't catch your showcase, you're there. We were talking about that that's only 45 minutes out of 4 days. I mean, we find sometimes with particularly with some artists, it's hard for them to do the schmooze, to do all that schmooze. Again, it's good to find someone. If there's not someone who's with you, bring someone, or we were talking about whoever that representative is, but like attend everything. You just never know. I mean, and look at it long term. I wish I'd come up with this. God, I wish I was smart enough. But we were doing one of these with Stephen Carroll for the Weaker Thans, and Stephen's a friend of ours, and he described the Weaker Thans as they started to write their own narrative. So before they did any of these things, they talked about, and I think A&R people at labels did this long before anybody else. They talked about, okay, so what does this event mean to me and what do I want out of it? But further than that, what does this year mean to me? What as an artist or as a group or as really an organization do we want to achieve? And is it we want to meet a certain music supervisor, or we want to have music supervision, or we want to get placement, we want an American agent, we want to whatever, and then write the narrative of how you get there. I mean, I know, again, I'm doing the old hippie think and grow rich here, but it does seem to work, and it's worked for an awful lot of artists, is to write your narrative. Where do you want to be in a year from now? And how do these showcases act as stepping stones? Instead of just apply for everything and spend a shitload of money on Sonic bids, you know, what is it you want to do? Where is it you want to go? What do you want to achieve? I mean, I know you've heard this 100 times, but I think unfortunately it's true.
Yeah, I think in a lot of cases what we see too through SaskMusic is an artist goes to a workshop or a conference, I should say, and maybe applies to showcase, maybe gets the showcase, but then they really, like I said, they don't know what they want out of it, so they're going kind of, well, it would be great if I can get a booking agent, and it would be great if, you know, a label would come and swoop down and sign me, and it would also be great if, you know, we could get a licensing deal out of this, but it's all very kind of nebulous. So you're talking almost like having a business plan written.
That, well, yes. Why yes, we are. Well, it isn't a business. I mean, there's the other side of me that still thinks that, you know, I'm kind of losing patience with the every artist should be a 7-Eleven owner. You know, it's starting to feel really 90s and early 2000s to me. I think that's great. If you're Lorena McKinnon and you're one of the greatest businesswomen that's ever walked the earth, I mean, she took over her dead husband's like widget business and turned it around after he died. You know, I mean, not all of us could be Lorena McKinnon, you know, certainly I'm not. You know, I need an accountant, and I need a marketing person, and I need stuff to run my business. And so might you. So, I mean, you know, horses for horses. If you're good at certain things, then, you know, mazel tov, God bless you, as we say in Winnipeg. You know, go ahead and tweet your heart out. But, you know, if you need people to fill in those blanks, you're going to need those people. And I really feel sometimes, boy, now I'm going to get off my high horse, but I really think that over the last 5 or 6 years, we've spent a lot of time telling artists how they should be stocking the shelves with cornflakes instead of, you know, for God's sakes, write your next album too. You know, I mean,
Yeah, that's kind of important.
sorry, I'm done now.
Any questions
Okay,
about
sure.
that?
I thought that was an excellent comment, Rick. I mean, sometimes people over-promote, and it's like, well, you know, maybe you should sit at home a little more and work on your songs, so then that's your promotion, right? If your promotion is better than your songs, there's a problem.
Hi, John.
All right.
Okay, so let's talk about if you are invited to showcase, and let's use your event specifically. So Kevin, if somebody's getting a showcase, is there anything that they need to do aside from having their press package and pricing list and stage plot and everything maybe ready to go at the actual weekend? Should they be contacting any of your presenters in advance?
I'll answer some of this, and I'll leave some of this for Lynne as well as the person that gets artists ready. But in OSAC's case in particular, because we're volunteers, or the presenters are volunteers, we protect their identities rather jealously because they are bankers, school teachers, farmers' wives, whatever. So we don't want, and I'm not worried about anyone in this room, but I am worried about the agents, most of whom Rick has already named, who get that same information and start hounding them on booking the sheepdogs instead of, you know, in a 120-seat venue kind of thing. But we have a system that we use internally where we will promote your appearance at our showcase, not only through our own methods, but if you send us a one sheet, we'll mail it out to everybody. If you send us an email blast, we will send it out to all of our presenters. That's number one. There's a whole bunch of do's and don'ts that I know we're talking about, and there's, you know, kind of three things. Like the three do's are, you know, be on time, be polite, and have a well-planned showcase. And the don'ts are don't do any, you know, don't miss any of those three. I look at it, I've always considered it like a 20-minute job interview. Our job at OSAC is to get you as many gigs as possible. So we want to work with you in any possible way to try and help get you those shows. So we will work with you directly as far as, you know, if you're unsure about what you need or don't need, we'll help you with all that. I've always recommended to artists they treat it like a mini show because it's only 20 minutes in length. And I think if you talk to Cecile or Melanie, they'll tell you that's the shortest 20 minutes of their lives. It goes by incredibly fast. So you need to prepare for that, and prepare, and prepare, and prepare, and then go back and do it one more time. Because there's everything, like there should be an exact script that you're following, there should be the songs you're playing, and you should be able to, you know, like Rick said, I don't think our monitors have ever not worked on the first song, but it may happen. And it may not be exactly what you expect, so you want to be prepared for all of that stuff. So that's kind of the two quick points. The other part for do's and don'ts is showcases you're going to tour. Don't come and showcase as an 8-piece show band, and then when you go out on the road you're a 2-piece folk duo, because our presenters don't like that. And remember that our crew is there to help you. So if they tell you it's too loud, it probably is. We're a different we have different audiences than some of you may be used to, and we seldom get complaints that it's not loud enough, but we often get complaints that it's too loud when the bands are on the road and at showcase. So those are the kind of the brief ones. Lynne's going to go over a few points here as far as stagecraft, which is equally as important in our world as anything else. So.
The first thing that you have to know when and I'm going to talk about specifically about contact events, which would be Contact East, Ontario Contact, BC Contact, Alberta, Manitoba, OSAC Contact. So it pretty well covers the country, but it is the soft seater and the presenter networks, which is a huge market. So those are the kind of events that I'm going to talk about. So the first thing is know what kind of a showcase you're going to be giving. Is it going to be a full-length showcase in a soft seat venue? Is it going to be 15 minutes or 20 minutes long, which is generally what they are? Is it going to be a 5-minute pitch session, which has no technical support whatsoever other than maybe a one handheld mic, okay? But those are becoming very popular too. At BC Contact this year, there was more people at the pitch sessions watching these 5-minute progressive little showcases than there was in some of the big showcase events. So it's not something to be scoffed at. Yes?
Do you find that the barriers for entry for those pitch or acoustic showcases are lower than the larger, more articulated showcases, or is it very much the same?
The barriers as in, what do you mean?
The barriers to entry.
Oh, no, much less. You can get in to do, there's far more are able to get in to do the 5-minute pitches than are to do the full-length showcases. Okay. Absolutely, yeah. And often they're the ones that haven't been given a full-length showcase get to do the pitches. Although some people just want to do just the pitches. Yeah. And actually it goes over really well. People really love it. So the first thing is to know exactly, yes?
I'm just confused between what the pitches are.
The pitch would be this stage with one microphone, and it would be 5 minutes. That's it, and that's all you get.
It's like an open stage.
It's like an open.
Almost, yeah.
It's almost like an open stage, but the rooms are packed with people watching.
You mean at the folk festival ones, or I've never seen that actually.
At all of
It's mostly the contact events that are doing them. I don't know about the other ones that have been doing them lately. OSAC, we did ours for the first time in a number of years last year, and I mean, you know, we had probably 150 people in a room to see 10 people. We started using them, a lot of the contact events started using them for dance and theater, for the agents to come up and talk, because as you can imagine, trying to pull 20 minutes out of a theater piece or out of a dance piece is very difficult. And then they started also using them as kind of an introduction for some of the younger artists as an entry-level thing. But it's becoming more than that all the time now. So
yeah, much more than that now all the time. Okay, so first of all, so know what you're going to be doing and exactly how long it's going to be, because it is a very, very precise amount of time. One province literally shuts off the mic and shuts off the lights, and that is not a joke. So when
Not
that,
us.
and it's not them, but and they actually, and we've seen it happen a number of times. So it's a very precise amount of time. I'm not always sure that a showcase is a mini performance. It is, but it's an art form in itself, because it is putting your best foot forward in a very, very short amount of time. So as Kevin said, the most important thing is to plan it to the second and rehearse it and rehearse it and rehearse it. Some things are absolutely important. You walk out and you introduce yourself, because the people in the audience may not have heard what the announcer said. They may have lost their place in the program, and it's dark in there, and they don't know who the heck you are up there. So the first thing when you get up there is you say, hello, I'm Jane Smith, and this is my band, and we're here to do, and that's it. It's important. It's important to speak. They want to hear you. They want to hear what you can do. There's absolutely no question. But they need to know who you are, and they want to make a connection with you. They also want to know that you know where you are. So it really helps to say, hi, it's great to be here in Weyburn. You got a great Chinese restaurant. Or the band we just ate, it was fabulous. Just so that they know that you know what town you're in, even. Because it's important. People think that you don't know where. They want a connection. They want to be recognized. And to time your pieces perfectly. Now, I can't say this really out loud, but I will say it anyway. I don't always like to have the first showcase for my artists after the big banquet meal, because the presenters are in there and they're sleepy from all that turkey, right? So what's the thing to do? You're a singer-songwriter. You do ballads. The first thing you do is you're going to put them to sleep. So really think about your repertoire. Reach out. Say hello to them, introduce yourself, grab them with your first piece and wake them up, because that's important. Don't lull people to sleep. I've had some fabulous artists that do beautiful, beautiful ballads, but we shorten the ballads because it's important. You have a small amount of time. Don't put your audience to sleep. During your performance, talk about if you have any add-ons, if you do anything else in the community. Say, we do guitar workshops, we do school shows, we'd love to come to your senior's home, that sort of thing. Because there's some presenters out there, particularly in the network audiences, that will really grab onto that and think that that's a fabulous idea. That if you're coming to their town, you can also do a school show. Or if you're a singer, you can also do a vocal workshop. Something like that, and all it takes is a mention. And if your showcase is 15 to 20 minutes long, my personal feeling is that shorter songs are better than longer ones. You can speak between every piece, and it keeps reconnecting you with the audience, and that's what's important. And the final thing is before your last song, say, it's really nice. Thanks very much to OSAC and to Kevin for having us here in Weyburn, Saskatchewan. It's been great. Come and see us at booth 125. We are the Knockouts. We want to come to your town. Here's our last song. Really, so that they can identify you easily. They know where to find you afterwards. And you're going to book shows with them. That's it.
Make it sound so easy.
Totally. Okay, Rick.
And I put him to sleep.
No, very good. I don't know what I was going to say. I think that's as apropos for any showcase of what you just said.
Yeah.
You're talking about just what to do during.
Prepping.
No, I think
If
everything
somebody's
my
getting a
cohorts have
showcase.
said here is true.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the only thing I guess sometimes I see is, yeah, you know, lead with your best material. Lead with something, you know, always play something that people are going to be able to hear. I'm surprised how many people open up with, here's 3 songs off our new album that won't be coming out for 6 or 7 months. That's kind of dumb. Because if you're going to then give that to people, I always think it's important to have merch there and to be willing. So the person we talked about before that you've said, okay, this person is going to be our talking person, or we have an agent or manager, that's fine, or somebody in the band. You know, go to the merch table right away and sign stuff for people. I think that connecting directly with fans is a really good idea. You know, again, with the business cards, what's your Twitter feed? Try to get them signed up. I think everything you guys said about physically doing the showcase. The only thing, again, that, I mean, it's a very nervous time. I think it's great. I mean, I don't know who you talk to if you're a solo artist without anybody there with you, but if you're in a group or a band, you know, take a second just beforehand and look at each other and go, you know, this really is great, and we're going to do a great job, and so that everybody off is in a corner psyching themselves into, you know, a sort of nervous state of agitation. You know, have fun and look like you're having fun, because that's, you know, we're in the business of people having a good time, and you communicating your art to them, which is, you know, the reason that you're there to do it in the first place. But yeah, physically, I mean, the only thing I guess I would add is please make sure you have 2 of every cable that you need in your show. You know, there's no point trying to find a mini cable through, you know, halfway through the first song.
And strings.
Yeah, we used to, in one of these panels that I was on a few years ago, one of the other panelists actually mentioned 2 guitars in case you break strings or whatever. The reality is nowadays, with the joys of flying in this country, getting 1 is hard enough. So, but you may want to make friends with musicians, you know, your fellow compatriots backstage, just in case the unthinkable happens. The other thing that Lynne and I really didn't talk about that much is dress the part. In the torn jeans and t-shirt that is applicable at Amigos may not or will not work at an OSAC or a Contact East or Ontario Contact Showcase, and it's just because of the different type of presenter that you're dealing with. So it's really, you know, it gets back to know what the showcase is, know what the expectations are. So, you know, ask the question, like, you know, don't be embarrassed to say, you know, what should I wear? What, you know, there's the classic story of the classical violinist with the strapless dress who spent 12 of her 18 minutes trying to keep the top from falling down, right? And we saw it, like it's, you know, it's painful to watch, like it's, you know, because the poor kid is spending a ton of her money to get there, and they thought everything through, including the gorgeous gown, except the logistics of the gorgeous gown. So, you know, it's all this stuff, and there are people who can help. There's, with showcase style and techniques, there's people in Saskatchewan that, Brenda Baker, I believe, is one that has done showcase workshops. Skip and I are always willing to help. Lynne will help, you know, as well. So, because it is a different world than what a lot of you have lived in before, so.
Well, and I think that applies even to something like BreakOut West,
for sure,
too.
yeah.
I mean, like, we've seen some amazing showcases where there's obviously thought put into the whole performance, and it was a theatrical performance that you came away remembering the act with. Even, you know, the one year at, when it was in Moose Jaw, and I think it was the Bloodlines at that time, came out on the awards show, and they were dressed to the nines, and it not only makes the showcase interesting, but you have press there who are instantly taking a lot of photographs. That band in particular has ended up on like New Music Weekly and a whole bunch of other magazines because they're press worthy in their look and so on. So I don't think it's just, you know, for your particular events that you want to dress up, but it always kind of works, and there are people around who can help you stage your performance as well for that.
The other thing I'd put out that I've seen a bunch of times, and I don't think anyone here would do it, but a showcase is a whole night, like particularly something like BreakOut West or Canadian Music Week or South by. And I think there is honor among thieves. You know, if one of your fellow performers needs a bass, throw it at them, give it to them, help them out, you know, all work together. Talk beforehand if you can, you know, about what time they're going on, get to know each other. It sounds like a small thing, but one, you'll make friends, and two, it'll help the whole night go better. If the night goes better, more people with laminates who have money will stick around, and the whole kind of vibe takes off, and the thing kind of, and everybody has fun, and it runs on time, and people feel better about the whole thing. I know it's a small thing, but I've sort of seen things before where I know there's someone out there who has, you know, an extra set of strings and is just sort of standing there smiling, going, well, screw them. You know, if they fail, I succeed. But that's really not true.
Yeah.
The old Carmen
Yeah,
thing.
Carmel,
That's right.
she's a cruel mistress.
Yeah.
Rick, can you talk a bit about, with your event, when a showcasing artist is accepted, should they be setting up meetings, or should they just send out invites, or?
All of the above. I mean, in our particular event, because we do about 300 odd one-on-ones, we'll sort of put that together. We put a sign-up sheet online. If we sort of look at them and realize that maybe they're not taking advantage of people we think they should, we become a bit curatorial, and we phone them and go, you know, that person would be really great for you, or email them and say, you know, that would be a good match. You know, that person, you may not know who Music Glue is, but they are now the largest ticketer and helper of getting artists to Europe in the UK or whatever, and we know that they're touring. Yes, from there we give lists of people who attend. We ask every person who's coming to sign away under the Privacy Act, we do have to ask for information. So if someone says, no, I don't want to give up my email address or contact information, some people get angry with us and say, but I really want to talk to that person. And I go, well, they don't want to be, you know, what they want to do is go find you. In other words, they're going to be at the event, they'll come see you play, convince them to play. You know, we have a drop-off area where you can drop off your CD and message people and stuff like that. But I would say about 85% of the people are happy enough, 90%, to give us their contact information. And we certainly think that you should research who those people are. We give you the tools to do that. And then decide again, you know, according to your plan, who's the best person to invite. We try to do something a little differently, that we have everybody play twice, never on the same night, so that, you know, if, I'm going to come up with the same people over and over again because I'm old. Ralph James, again, because I can see him, really likes that. Like all the agents we talk to really like that, because they run into a situation where maybe they have their own band there, so they have to be there because they're pitching it to a music supervisor or whatever. So they can go there the next night and see them anyway. So there's two opportunities.
It's a great idea, actually.
Yeah, so there's always two opportunities. We kind of go big club, small club, but you know, it adds a level of fairness and allows you, the artist or manager or publicist, to maximize your experience there. Yes, sir.
They give a different performance on each of those nights.
Yeah. Well, it's up to them. I guess they could do an identical one. I don't know. But yeah, they've got two showcase opportunities. You know, one on Friday, one on Saturday.
Yeah, but it'd be different different sets. Like
It's up to them. They could do the same set.
Yeah, I think, yeah, a lot of times they're prepping the one set, but
And
depends on the artist.
these are ticketed events for the public
Yeah.
too, right? And that's one of the biggest differences between, well, another one of the big differences, is that our events aren't open to the public necessarily. So you're just playing for the presenters. You're not playing for the guy off the street who comes in and is bitterly disappointed with a 20-minute show, right? So it's a different mindset. So it doesn't have to be the same in our case as your regular set. It has to be like, you know, your best 20 minutes that flows like a show, but your best 20 minutes, where as opposed to a 45 or 55-minute set in a club somewhere. This is a totally different, you know, private, I'm not going to say private showcase, but a non-public showcase. So it's a different type of animal altogether. So.
Yeah, that's got to be
terrifying. We are the worst audiences in the world, I'll tell you right now. Trying to get a room full of 150 or 200 presenters and guys like me to sing and stuff is bad. Hard to do.
And Rick, is there any way that that bands can get more people out to their showcases with the pre-invites and stuff like that?
Yeah, we always tell people, I mean, and the same not just for our event, but any event, I mean, start your social marketing, you know, a lot earlier about getting people involved in the fact that you're showcasing there. Simple things, phone all the media in your town. I'm always surprised that bands who are going down don't phone, like the Austin Chronicle, for instance, in Texas. The ones that do invariably get placed with an article about what they're playing because it's cool, there's a Canadian band. You know, bring a little camera along with you if you're touring down there, get pictures up. So sort of get the social media rocking beforehand. You know, your Facebook friends, your website, get all that stuff sort of leading up to that thing. I mean, there are artists I've seen create showcases out of it. The two I remember specifically were Danny Mangan years ago. We did one again at South by. And this would be 4 or 5 years ago. He hadn't really, you know, as far as we know, he didn't have a deal with Arts and Crafts and was selling tons of records and touring the world. And we were doing a showcase of this, actually the Canada Blast venue changed at the end of it. It was solely Luna, means nothing to you, but it wasn't a very good venue. And so we'd had a band on, I can't remember who it was, and nobody had been there, they were fairly well known. And we had Danny on, not as a tweener, but I think it was a 30-minute set. And the place was immediately filled for that 35 minutes with 25-year-old women, like absolutely packed. Like 5 minutes before he started and 5 minutes after he left. And then there was another kind of lull, I won't say it was, and then Deep Dark Woods came on, and men with beards and whatever showed up and came and they left. And that was really at the beginning where I went, there might be something about this social marketing thing that's actually working. So they worked it. And I talked to Dan afterwards. He said, no, I've been sort of, again, I hate to keep using Stevens writing the narrative, but they really had been sort of creating that lead up to that and contacting people and keeping people together. I mean, sort of side story, that is another Lorena story. We all know Lorena was the first great social marketer. When she was playing harp in Kensington Market, she wrote down every single email address and then snail mail address back then of every human being who put a nickel into her hat, and then sent them, you know, physical mail saying, "Would you like to buy my new record?" And I think that that's really what people like Dan and Deep Dark Woods and a whole slew of others. And so yeah, they gear that up. Sorry, short story. They gear that up way in advance so that it peaks when you hit that stage.
Yeah. Any questions? Showcasing. Yes.
What sort of tour history do you look for to establish a solid business plan? I mean, is it do you look for like an entire Western Canadian tour, or do you want to see like solo missions to 2, 4, 5 venues? What impresses you as
You know, not necessarily. I think that one of the things I see on a lot of, because I'm on, you know, I'm on a bunch of selection committees too outside of our work, is the wish, you know, the wish list of where we'd like to play. I don't really need to see a list of, you know, next summer we're going to play, we're going to apply to every single folk festival in Canada, including Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, and it's, you know, it's my first album. It's not going to happen. I actually am really impressed with somebody who has a tour itinerary that goes coffee house A to, you know, who, I mean, there's nothing better than seeing someone who got in the van, put a bunch of records in there, and played, you know, the coffee house in Kelowna, followed by the one in Osoyoos, followed by the one in whatever. That actually, you know, and they were real gigs that you played. You know, it's the same with meetings when somebody says, well, what is your plan when you get to, you know, the marketing plans we see for Factor and you guys see for tour support is going, well, you know, I emailed, again, you know, Ralph Janes or Rob Wright or Julian Pecan, and they may come to my showcase. Well, you know, I wanted to sleep with Julia Roberts in the 80s, and that didn't happen either. So, really, I mean, I want to see direct letters of intent of people who get back to you, and that can be the person that books the coffee house in the Soyuz. It might be a great place to play. So, for me, seeing the reality of that build of things that are actually happening in career, that are real, that are tangible, are very impressive, because it's not easy to get gigs.
That's right.
And it's not easy to get in a van and play 37 dates, you know, in 42 days.
Thank you.
And I think one of the, I mean, in our case, we don't demand that artists have a tour, like a long tour history, but we like to see some growth as well. So much like, you know, to go, you know, did you play, if you've been playing for your friends and family in your basement for 10 years, that's not the same as, you know, playing for them for 2 years and then playing coffee houses and then playing, you know, in other venues and getting, you know, even things like, you know, your hometown's sports day or whatever they call them now is a step in that curve, right? And that's what we're, you know, we look for some of that as well, so.
That's right.
Okay, let's talk a bit about networking and schmoozing and how to do that properly, if there is such a thing. If you're an artist, let's say you've decided you want a booking agent. That's your main goal of this conference. You're showcasing. You've done a showcase. There's a booking agent in the room. You want to go talk to them. What's the best way to do that?
Well, I mean, first of all, go talk to them. We talked a bit about, you know, how that, well, that sounds silly, but I mean, you'd be amazed how many people disappear because their friend's playing down the road, because they've got other things to do, because they really want a beer, because there's a really, really pretty she or he who's been looking at them on the dance floor all night. And then, I mean, so politely go up to them and say, you know, did you enjoy the showcase? Thank you for coming is always a good start. You know, what did you think? Be honest.
Reintroduce yourself first, though.
Exactly. Who are you? Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, I think also reality. I mean, again, I'll go back to someone who books major festivals in Europe once told me that they had someone come up to them after a showcase and said, you know, we're looking for this. And they said, but I'll be honest with you, we're not ready to tour Europe yet. I said, so here's where we're at in our career. They didn't come up and say, hi, we're the new Coldplay and we're ready to go and, you know, give us a gig. They went, so here's where we are in our structure right now. Here are the things we're looking at. Here is the 37 gigs in the van we're doing. And could I give you my card? And he was so incredibly impressed, he said yes. And so he actually started following them because he was curious about this honest young man who didn't believe that they were Coldplay because it was so rare. And so then they saw them again and he went out to another showcase at another event a year later. Third year actually did well get it. It was actually Martin and it was Glastonbury and he booked them on one of the side stages. So that's pretty, you know, an example of going up to people and being very real about what you're looking for and what you want to do.
Yeah, the other thing is like for a lot of the contact events, the meals are part of the event. Don't sit with your buddies every meal.
Right.
Go find, you know, sit down at a table if there's an empty chair, introduce yourself. You know, you never know who you're going to sit beside, and it may not be the agent, but it may be, you know, a presenter that will have the venue next to the agent's office or something like that. And it's cliched, but for my friend Peter D. Smith in the East Coast, the lobby bar is still one of the best places to network in the world.
Absolutely.
It's, you know, it sounds horrible and, you know, no, don't get drunk and obnoxious, but it is one of those places that, shockingly, musicians, agents, performing arts people, we all hang out in the lobby bar. And so there is a way to make that work for yourself as well. So.
Anything to add on that one?
No, lobby bar, that's it.
Okay, so what does the artist say once they go up to this person? Hi, I'm you know, Jack Smith. I just played. I want a booking agent.
Well, we assume you wouldn't be saying hello to the booking agent unless you want one. I think you need to be more strategic about that. I think hopefully you realize what area of music they work most in. You know, there's not much. I mean, a lot of people get that all the time. Of they're the rock booker for Feldman, and they've got someone who's the folk musician from. You know, I mean, so you know, you should be talking to Jack Ross, not Ralph James. So pick the person in the agency that is there, that is most aligned to your type of music, that works with a roster. You know, look at their roster. You know, is that who you fit with? Is that, you know? So then you've targeted that person. You go up and you let them know, you know, what you've done this year, how you're working, that you're looking for an agent, that, you know, you're willing to work your, you know, but everybody says that, but it's true. I mean, give them something concrete. You know, be charming. Don't take up too much of their time. Make sure you give them a business card. Make sure you get theirs. Collect as many as you can. Ask them if you can contact them later, and contact them later, because you're not going to get it all done in the 47 seconds you're going to have the first time you meet someone. So make sure that you follow up.
The other thing, do some research on the agents, because there are, I'll guarantee you, 25 agents that do, that are national agents that you've never heard of, who, like Nicole Rochefort from Toronto, who has an agency called AIM, and Debbie Peters, who does jazz and folk music out of Whitehorse, and all these small agencies that are like boutique agencies that can do a tremendous amount of work for you. And you know, if you come to OSAC, you're going to meet Debbie Peters, whereas you can go to a lot of conferences and not meet Julian Pecan necessarily, or have a tough time getting to see him and say hi to him. And that gets back to the earlier comment about know what you want and where you're trying to go, and to spend time doing some research on you know, specialty agencies or folk agencies or whatever, you know, however Google's going to find it for you, and try and find. There's classical agents. There's some tremendous Canadian classical agents in this country that are always looking for new artists. In Quebec City, in Montreal, in Toronto, you know. So it's not just the big 3 or 4 agents that you guys have all heard the names of before.
No, absolutely, that's a very good point. I mean, that's kind of the same with managers. I'm actually surprised at how many bands are looking for managers where really they've got a, I'm not saying I love managers, there are some great managers, and if you need one, you need one. But I mean, there are probably as many bands I meet that I say, you know, what you really need is a business manager. You know, if you're Deep Dark Woods, I doubt they're incredibly different than they were 5 years ago when they started playing. You know, they had a narrative, they had a vision, and they knew what they were doing musically. They need someone to manage their business versus someone who, you know, the weird guy that Celine Dion married. You know?
Renee.
How soon we forget. Not that Renee didn't do a great job.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he did, you know. Kind of creep me out. But he did a great job.
Okay, and then how about if, like, you know, opening reception, for example, you just get to the conference, you haven't met anybody yet, and it's, oh, what do you do? What can an artist do to prepare that response so that it's, you know, succinct and interesting?
Lynne?
I'd have a little business card. And it says, hi, I'm Jill Smith, I'm a guitarist, and I'm showcasing on Saturday night at 7 o'clock in da-da-da-da-da, and have it tiny. That's it. And what you said, actually, about not taking up too much time is really, really important. It's being succinct, telling them exactly what they need to know, shake their hand, look them in the eye, introduce yourself and say, this is who I am, this is what I do, come and see me.
And can I call you?
Yeah, and can I call you? That's right.
And on the flip side, also find out what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what, the one thing that's good about conferences is lots of times there's name tags.
Yeah.
Name tags are really, really important. And make sure that when you're getting your name tag, that it's got actually who you are and what you do on it, because sometimes that's not the case.
I mean, we give every artist a full delegate badge. It's kind of something that we wanted to do, and I think it's worked well for us. It kind of makes, you know, we have less VIP events, and really you've got to get to know a band kind of to sort of, you know, so the meeting people is easy. I mean, I do suggest that if you're going to one of the larger events around the world, as expensive it is, at least have one person, the best schmoozer, fork out the sometimes $400 or $500 so that one person in the band has a full delegate badge. I mean, I do see that a lot where, you know, people are going, well, you know, I'm looking forward to getting this one event I can go to, and I'm going, well, you know, there's a convention hall over there with 2,000 people wearing laminates, and well, you know, it was like $500 to get one. Well, you know, ask your mom. You know, like if you're investing $3,000 or $4,000 to go to a showcase, not investing another $500 so that someone in your band can have access to the VIP events, the pre-schmoozes, the post-schmoozes, is why would you not want that? Then I guess you're going to figure out you might see them in line for a taco on 6th Street.
So a lot of the events, even one member of the band doesn't get a badge then, right? There's not enough room. Some don't.
Yeah, they don't. I mean, it's South by now, which is really strange. you have a choice. You can either get one laminate for the badge, and then each of the bands gets a wristband to get them into like clubs without paying cover. But then the American Immigration Society decided that that meant that bands were getting paid, and that screwed up the whole P2 process for the U.S. So this is an aside, just as another happy story about our American neighbors.
How about BreakOut West? Everybody in the band gets delegate.
Everybody gets a delegate badge.
Yeah.
And that's like every conference is so different. Like even on the network side, like we give our artists, like the artists don't get full meal passes and everything. They get a badge. They'll get them into the contact room and that. And we're pretty lax about if they want to go to a workshop or whatever. But I mean, meals are a huge expense for us. So you know, if you buy your contact room table, you can buy additional meals. So if there's 3 of you in the band and you buy one contact room table for a couple $100, and then the other meals, then you can stick around for the whole weekend and be part of the schmooze fest. But otherwise it's just one person. It's just because the hard cost on meals is getting real prohibitive for a lot of us. Now everyone's different. Contact East has a totally different system. Like they, you know, it's kind of a free-for-all, and even though you've paid your full money, sometimes you don't get to eat because they run out of food because all the bands ate first. So. Which is good, but you know. So again, it gets back to the original comment about know the conference you're going to.
And I know that this sounds really basic, but don't walk out of your hotel room without your badge on for the whole weekend. Make sure you've got it on wherever you go.
Yeah, I mean, when you find someone that saw that showcase and really does think you're great, even though it may not be the person that you're looking for, you know, they may know, you know, feel free to say to them, you know, would you mind, you know, sending an email and introducing me to blah, blah, blah. Because invariably we will. If we really thought what we saw was great, we're going to, you know, we're going to want to get a piece of it later on. No, I'm kidding. But we're gonna, you know, nobody doesn't in our business doesn't want to be able to go, yeah, you know, I saw that band in the beginning, and I said
told him
that to whatever,
yeah.
and then good things happen. We're all, you know, selfish, egotistical maniacs at the end of the day, right? Or we wouldn't be doing it.
Was there another question? No.
Curious about what P2 is.
Sorry, P2 is a form that you need to go play the States.
Okay.
And it's just gotten harder and harder to get. Your best bet still, I think, is to do it through the union, unless things have changed. Through the AFM, it's one of the things that is worth belonging to the AFM.
And there's a few trustworthy companies that will assist you in doing it, but there's also a few others that are there for the money, so you have to kind of know what you're getting into.
Sorry.
And it's something that you have to start far, far in advance of like a year.
Well, they've done this thing now where there's the expedited versus the non-expedited. The non-expedited means that it goes into a round file until someone finds it a few years later. So you have to pay the extra amount of money, which is, I think it's $500.
$500, yeah.
And unless it's gone up in the last hour and a half. And then from there, I mean, you really have to watch this thing. I mean, I've known a couple of bands now that like they say, where are you playing, when are you playing, and the date you're back. And so it would be awfully tempting to say it was a beautiful sunny day in Portland before you drove to Vancouver, so you decided that you and your new boyfriend or girlfriend would sit on the beach and not get back the date that you said you were going to. And it's happened. They don't have to. It's the discretion of the border police. That they decided you took an extra gig and you weren't back in Canada the day you said you were going to be back, and you will never get a P2 again. So
it's not something that you fool with.
It's not something that you fool with.
That just seems so challenging, like to have to get it a year in advance, and then like even to talk to club owners in the States a year in advance, and I guess that's how people do it though. I mean.
Yeah, and you have to start the process. I mean, it's just something that you really need to research well in advance. It really is.
I'll be honest with you, we're inviting a whole lot less bookers, festival buyers, and club buyers from the United States to our event, and more music supervisors, because even though I think earlier I said it's not just a matter of getting your guitar and going to Europe, it's not far from that. Like, it's really not hard. I mean, it is to have the paperwork done and the whatever and go, but touring Europe is actually a very real thing to do, where you can actually get paid. And what we found over the last 3 or 4 years is with pay to play and with club dates, I mean, you can say if I'm wrong somebody, but it's not freaking worth it. I mean, you know, even a higher end act, like, you know, my friends from Blackie and the Rodeo Kings get paid whatever they do here. They play the States, they get paid like 1/15 of that. I mean, unless you're, you know, playing Coachella or one of the larger things, or it's a very strategic gig that's very good for your career, or it's a showcase, I don't really see a young emerging band being worth touring the States. I don't.
It's really difficult, and frankly, it's getting more difficult for American bands to come to Canada as well.
Yeah.
It's not any bargain for them, and you know, the CRA has made it a lot more difficult for organizations like us or anybody else that books to actually have non-Canadian acts touring as well. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, but getting into the States is like really difficult.
I mean, it is once you're, and let's use the local hometown heroes, the sheepdogs, because, you know, you reach a certain level where now other people are doing that for you. You know, where your management company, your record company or whatever are signing the forms and getting it all together, and it's harder to say no. But if you are, you know, well, I mean, you'll see. I don't have to tell you, but try it sometime. Just try taking a 3-piece band that no one's ever heard of, even though you have gigs, and go to the United States for 6 weeks. It'll bust you in half.
Even showcases, I've heard now, are really difficult to get down, you know. So you have to be careful on all of it. So.
Yeah, I mean, we recommend, basically, if you're gonna get a showcase in the States, call us if you get it, because we can help you possibly walk through that process and maybe give you some options.
Download cards. Do not take CDs.
Yeah.
Do not take CDs to the United States. 1 out of 3 border guards will decide that you're selling them and charge you the duty on them, as though they were full retail. Yes.
It just doesn't make any sense that 2 decades into free trade, that's what they do. Like, we can't even go down to Minot here, you know? It's like, what could we be above in the States? Are we like, can we go anywhere? So like, you can't even take a little trip down to Minot and play a club there, or have some bands come up here. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
and
no.
the CD thing you just said too.
Yeah, after 9/11, it really dramatically changed.
Right.
Yeah. But that's a whole other workshop.
Yeah,
Is there
a whole other
anybody
workshop.
that's working to try and tear
Oh yeah,
tear that
oh yeah,
down?
Yeah,
everybody
absolutely.
is working on it on both sides of the border. There's government people down in the States trying to ease things, but really it comes out to the discretion of a border guard at the portal you cross at often.
Every single time.
I have a cousin who just proudly sent me this photograph today because she was with Monica and whatever his name is, they were some fancy delegate thing that was going on down in Ottawa celebrating 200 years of the most peaceful border in the world. And I think, yeah, except when it comes to music, which is like the international language throughout the world, like it just doesn't make sense why anybody would cause so much trouble over that.
Yeah.
So are you saying off the record that if you're gonna try and distribute any CDs, burn them when you're down there?
No, just take download cards.
Download
Just phone Canada Disc and Tape. You can have your whole CD on there. It's way cheaper anyway. You take download cards, you give it to anybody. They go online.
Oh, okay.
They'll set up the whole website for you. You put in a code, and they can download your CD. So you have nothing physical. So far, they haven't figured out a way to attach you on download cards. You can actually have those done. Like Canada Disc and Tape have a couple of outlets in the States where you can have them shipped to your hotel room from an American address. So your first port of call, you will end up with 1,000 download cards, which fits in a box about this big.
Have you ever heard of people that are going through this and back and forth where border guards are checking Facebook and Twitter things?
I'm sure.
We've heard of people checking newspaper ads and stuff like that. You know, especially if you're playing near the border crossing, they're gonna find out. You can't play down there and promote your show without being public about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, we never advise anybody to go over without the proper paperwork. And yeah, you got to do it in advance, and you got to have the contracts, and you got to have. I mean, local band Untimely Demise just got turned back, and they're now seriously going to have trouble ever playing in the States again. And for their genre of music, that is a big problem.
Yeah, if you're turned down once.
Yeah, they don't have to let them back again, period. It's their border, they can do what they want. But I don't want to get too bogged down in immigration stuff. We have a few things to wrap get too late here. Okay, anybody got any stories? Really, really good showcases. Maybe, Rick, do you want to start? Can you give us an example of a band who maybe showcased at WCMAs and then went on to showcase here, and what maybe some opportunities came out of it?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them. I mean, I don't know if I can get, I certainly can get specific about Mangan and the Sheepdogs and a whole bunch of people lately, Tegan and Sarah, years ago. I think that the common thread about them was that they were ready, they were at the right place at the right time, they did all the things that these folks talked about, they were prepared, they were ready to go, and the right people were there, and they'd done all their homework, and they had a good team behind them, and they got up and they grabbed it by the throat. I mean, the best showcase I saw in the last 2 years was a woman from a band called Sound from Denmark or Sweden, someone correct me, doesn't matter. They were on after the Go-Go's, who had the slowest stage crew. She was basically 57 minutes late getting on in a showcase after the Go-Go's were done. And you know, had every right to whine and complain, and her crowd had kind of left. And we were all kind of turning around because it was a big showcase. And she came out and she hit the stage like kind of a cross between, I don't know, Iggy Pop and Lady Gaga. I just tore us all a new one. Like just went, fuck you, excuse my language, but she just went on there like she was shot out of a cannon. And no one left that room, and I know she got a ton of gigs out of it. And it was simply because every fiber of her being refused to admit defeat.
Yeah.
So we all kind of went, her.
I always tell a story about a group that used to be called Chucky Danger. They're now not called the Paper Lions, but Paper Lion, I guess it is. But in 07, 08, I think it was, I think we saw them showcase 7 times throughout the country, different events, including our own. I love the fact that they did, and this is where part of my preaching comes from. I knew their showcase as well as they did by the end, because they did exactly the same showcase 7 times. And it was tremendous. They did 12 or 15 shows for us. They had a huge Atlantic tour, they're from PEI. They had a huge BC tour. They did like 35 school shows plus a bunch of community shows. These guys, I mean, part of the reason why they changed, I think, their image of them is because they played so much over the course of 2.5 to 3 years that they were exhausted of themselves as Chucky Danger. But they came out, they had the black suits, skinny ties, Converse running shoes, they had the whole bit perfected, and it killed every time. And their showcase was exactly a show. It was like, everything from the cheesy, everybody plays the drums at the end, to, beginning, middle, and end parts of the showcase. I mean, Lynne saw them a bunch as well, even though she's a classical person, even she knew what was going on by the end, because it was... even she could sing it.
Even me!
But it was, it's an example of knowing what you want to do and rehearsing. And yeah, I know it sounds like a terrible way to make a living, but they had a ton of work across Canada over the course of a fairly substantial time period. So.
Would you guys say Focal Lines is somewhat similar to the Contact events?
OCFF or
Focal Lines, North American
Yeah.
Focal Lines?
Or Memphis.
Like it's coming to Canada next one, right?
That's a tough one. I used to go every year. That's one of the hardest ones I've ever seen because of all the stuff going on in the hotel rooms. I mean, if you get one of the SOCAN-sponsored showcases and one of the official Canadian Blast showcases, it's very different from everything else that goes on there because the majority of stuff takes place in these rooms that the bigger ones are controlled by you guys, the music industry associations. Usually the music industry associations help get the major showcases of Focal Lines. I mean, that being said, I saw a band called The Waits do a showcase in their room at Focal Lines North America when it was in Vancouver. And Terry Wickman and I put a tour together of all the major folk festivals in Canada, and outsold absolutely everybody and made an absolute fortune that year. So, you know, I guess
It's tough with those ones.
weird though.
Yeah. OCFF, which is the Ontario Council of Folk Festivals, most of you probably heard of,
That's a great event.
is another one of those that does a lot of hotel type of showcases, hotel room and ballroom type of things. The US regionals, they're called, which is Arts Midwest, Arts Northwest, those kind of things. I mean, they have fewer showcases, official showcases than what we have. But then in the hotels, there's ballrooms and hotel rooms and rooms half this size that there's music going all the time, and there's no kind of official, just kind of a 8-ish, somebody will be on stage here, and 9-ish, they'll be on stage there, and a bunch of them run at the same times. It's really hard to make those, you know, if you're by yourself, as Rick was saying, it's really hard to kind of make those work. I saw in Minneapolis a few years ago, a country artist that had a gold record not that many years ago, played at 8 people, 5 of which were in the band before him, and me and 2 other guys, right? So it's a tough go.
It's also tough to, I mean, these guys are really great. The contact events are curatorial, so the buyers there are real, they have checkbooks, they have actual shows. Focal Lines Canada, or Focal Line, what's it called? Focal Lines, North American Focal Lines, is filled with people who, as far as I can tell, are American couples who dress the same in Birkenstocks who go to a $40 house concert once every 3 months. And who gives a crap, you know? And it's full of them, you know? And they kind of walk around with a badge that says buyer on them, and how the hell are you going to know? And they turn out, you know, it's a real crap. I mean, you've been down there. It's like, you know, I once went there with Carson Pandura, me and Terry, and a bunch of us. We're not saying that we were the cock of the walk by any stretch. We figured out little Canadian buyers were going to hide out, with, you know, and the big boys will do the real stuff. And we were the only people with checkbooks. Like, our joke was, you know, we had like you know, cuts on our faces from the CDs being thrown at us. And I'm going, well, you know, if the artistic director of the Winnipeg Folk Festival, the best thing you got going on in all of North America, as buyers, you better check it at the door. Now, I understand it's gotten a lot better since Lewis Myers took it over. I understand it's...
Yeah, I heard it's really coming along, and because it's here in Canada next year, too, it could be interesting.
But it's the hardest one to tell who the hell you're talking to. Well, I really like your set. Well, I mean, at your guys' events, that means something, because I'm probably looking at someone who minimum has a really great soft seater in St. Albert. Fantastic.
Right.
You know, that's a great gift. You could be talking to someone who wants you to play their basement next Wednesday. You know, like, seriously, like, that's a tough one. And, you know, they used to monetize the event by people. It was a vacation for them, right? Not that I'm bitter about it.
Well, they do a lot of those hotel room showcases as well, right? So, how do you feel about that? I don't know if it applies, but maybe Kevin, you might have some experience from your previous life on this. When there's somebody going out and doing non-official showcase events, like for example, I'm sure there'll be some non-official showcase venues going during BreakOut West when it's here in Regina. How do you feel about those, and does it make an ad, Rick, or like? You know
what, I kind of like it, but you know, I'm an anarchist at heart. I think that it proves that you're a success. I mean, I think that as angry as South by was about Red Gorilla, I said, boy, to be that popular, where, you know, I mean, am I thrilled about it? I don't know. I mean, we had one, believe it or not, last year called Make Out West. Which I thought was rather clever, actually. And I mean, so, I mean, people are always going to take advantage of your marketing and what you do and put stuff on, and maybe, you know, you just look at it as flattery being the, what is it? The sincere form of flattery, imitation is a sincere form of flattery.
Yeah, it's not really an issue in our, you know, in where we are now. A few years ago at the national conference at the Capicoa, it's called, there was a guerrilla showcase that was not really guerrilla, it was kind of half sanctioned by Capicoa themselves, and that made me angry because it's really unfair to the other artists. But overall, like Rick was saying, I mean, you know, if somebody's going to play in the club next door, there's not a whole lot you can do about it. So, I mean, in our case, our presenter wouldn't be there anyway, so I don't know what.
Yeah, right.
You know, like we keep pretty busy for 2 days.
Right. Yeah, in your case, you do, right? And yours too, I think. Like,
yeah. I once had a guy threaten to beat me up at Juno's though, because when I did Juno Fest, he actually used the word Junos in a club that wasn't anything to do with the Junos and actually put it in the paper. I had the paper published, I don't know. So Mel Berry, who runs the Junos, told me, with a lot of to go down there and in no uncertain terms threaten, legal action. And what, of course, I didn't know was that I got there and it was, someone like this. Really wasn't particularly appreciative of my opinion of what words that he could use and not use. So, turns out artists, not only artists get beat up, but promoters do. That doesn't really answer your question.
Well, it kind of does. And I was thinking along the lines of CCMAs too, for example, because there is only 8 official showcases plus the songwriting ones. So I mean, we may do one this year, an unofficial official showcase. There's going to be, there's going to be numerous opportunities throughout that event that aren't showcases, but are performance opportunities. And I mean, even at your event, like you've got the galas and stuff where people have other chances to play, perhaps.
It's nice to be communicated with. I mean, if someone from an organization like a record company, which has happened before, or a label comes to me and says, we're going to do something Saturday afternoon, they obviously know the people who are coming anyway. I don't need to give them a list. It's nice to be asked. So that makes me feel better about it. I mean, at the end of the day, I kind of look at it, I think like we all do, big picture. If artists, I'm not in the business of making BreakOut West and the Western Canadian Music Awards be more successful. I'm in the business of our artists becoming more successful. So if that happens, and that's part of the weekend, and that's part of the Woof and Wharf, and that happens for an artist, again, as we say in Winnipeg, mazel tov.
Maybe we can just talk briefly about funding, because we're almost out of time. For an event like OSAC, Arts Board funding?
There's Arts Board funding, the Culture on the Go program, which they don't know if it's going to be renewed yet. I had a meeting today with the Arts Board, but they're hopeful that it will be. That is market, tour, and access. It's specifically designed, including in-province showcases, which is unusual. Canada Council doesn't fund in province, but you get accepted to Alberta, apply there. SaskMusic, I think.
Yeah, depending on the event,
yeah.
We sometimes have some assistance available, especially at the export level. For BreakOut West, there's factor funding. Does Canada Council apply for that?
Yeah, it does. So that we have through the classical stuff. They tend to be more on the jazz and classical side, and folk side. But yes, we have gotten funding for artists through Canada Council.
There's numerous different types of funding available. So I mean, if it's a bigger showcase and you're not sure if you'd be able to afford to go, you can always give us a call and make an inquiry before you apply. And as well, there's Radio Star Maker generally for CCMAs and I think some other of the larger events. And a lot of that kicks in and it's available as soon as you get accepted to a showcase. So it's there's less of an application process on some of them.
And Factor has a list of recognized showcases. Go to factor.ca. And if you're accepted at one of those showcases, unless you're in arrears to Factor, and do a decent marketing plan that isn't in crayon, you will get some money.
And in our case, like as soon as our artists are selected, we send the list to the Canada Council so that they know who's all been selected.
Right.
So and most of our compatriots across the country do something similar. I would also recommend that if you ever get accepted for showcase, you contact the music officer at Canada Council and say, I just got this showcase, and then they will phone or email the network that it's associated with. Then just make sure you thank them from the stage and put the logo in the program.
And I'll just add to that too, if you're accepted to showcase somewhere, please let SaskMusic know, because often we look at how many of our artists are showcasing at an event to decide if we're going to do something extra to support that. Like at CMW, if we've got 5 or 6 artists showcasing, maybe we'll do an additional showcase for you guys. But it's all about numbers and the impact we can make, but we need to know that stuff. Let's talk briefly about what to take. We touched on briefly, like some people want the physical CDs. You like the download cards?
Oh, that was purely, I'm fine with anything. I just think that if we're going to the States, I just don't want people to spend, $4 to $5 a CD on import duties. Well, actually, we were just at a music supervisors thing, and that question was asked. certainly less and less people want the physical CD. There are a bunch of diehard people that do. I think that, just as we said before, why would you not? I mean, this day and age, have everything. Have a download card, an EPK, a Dropbox file, a CD, you know, whatever it is that they might want. It's not super hard to have it.
And your own dedicated YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And please follow up, so if someone says, send me something, that you actually send it.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, I know it sounds silly, but I was at Alberta's Scene a few years ago. It was quite a ways ago now, and out of 32 artists that I asked to send me stuff, one did.
Wow. Really?
Can we just jump to that last, I just am interested, not running out of time, I was interested in that last question and the follow-up, the when and the how, like that delicate balance to not be too pushy, but to also not be forgotten by the time you get back to them. What do you guys recommend for a time to follow up on your visits, your meetings there?
If I could quickly, and then you guys chime in, but I actually emailed a couple of my friends the last time I did this in Europe, because I thought, one, they're much funnier, and two, they've been doing it a bunch of times. And I'll give you one from a guy who's probably seen more showcases than I've had hot lunches, and I like how it starts. Point 1, don't sell. Point 2, don't sell. Point 3, don't sell. You know, focus on getting one good lead from the event, and try to, I mean, it comes back to what we've all talked about, I won't go through the whole thing, but try to develop a relationship with that person as short a time as that takes. You know, if you're talking to them and they like the showcase, you know, talk about your band, talk about your art, talk about what you want to do, talk about why you're talking to them. You know, that you know who they are, that you fit into the, you know, would like them to fit into, or at least talk about where they might be in that narrative, in that scheme of what you're doing and what you hope to do. They're also going to have 5 people right behind them. You know, don't interrupt them if they're talking to someone and it's obviously their friend from the record company. Get a business card in front of them and look at them dead in the eye, as you said, and say, you know, I'd like to, you know, can I contact you in the next week? That's probably, and if you see them around again too throughout the weekend, say, hey, you know, it was great talking to you last night. Thanks for coming to the show. And then they'll start to put, you know, it's all about relationships and getting to know people. I don't know. I mean, I think you know, most artists are pretty good judges of that. The ones that aren't are really bad judges of it. You know, but most people kind of can feel the, you know, okay, you know, this person's now looking over my shoulder. It's probably time for me to move on. Right?
And it gets back to an earlier comment about know where you're going and what the system is. If you're going to Alberta or Manitoba contact events, you need to write down every person that expresses interest in, or check them off or highlight them on the delegate list to make sure that you follow up with them as they come past your table at the contact room. At OSAC, because we have a block booking system and everything comes through our office, you need to follow up with Skip. And, you know, and I'm going to tell you now, it's like 6 weeks after the event is when we kind of have a general idea as to, you know, if and how many gigs. So, but there's nothing wrong with picking up the phone and saying, hey, you know, just wondering how I'm doing. Or, flip side, if you apply for Showcase and don't get accepted, don't be shy to pick up the phone and say,
Yeah.
you know, not how come, because we won't tell you how come, but what can I do differently? Yeah. You know, you know, it's juried, so we never know why, but we can give you some hints as to what will help. And, you know, so it's all about knowing what system you're working within. But, yeah, I mean, and if you're in a, you know, if you're assaulting the same person for the 3rd time over a 2-day event, chances are it's a little bit of overkill.
Yeah.
And what's the time frame you would recommend? Like the conference ends, you go home. Do you immediately shoot an email off and go, hey, we met?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for a lot of them,
Yeah.
If you got time on Sunday night before you get in the plane, go ahead and shoot it off.
That's exact, and that's the best thing, it's the email thing, because you get the thread going back and forth, and you get the conversation going back and forth, and it's sometimes people don't want to talk to you, but they'll read your email, especially if you keep it short.
And drop a link. You know, if you don't send me 27 YouTube videos, or right away the Dropbox, you know, with all 16 songs. I mean, we'll get there. But it is actually really cool. I like getting an email at the end of an event saying, hey, you know, I saw you at that night where we played and we were talking and thanks for blah, 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 and here's a link to the new YouTube thing,
Yeah.
and a track. I really like getting, that's when I do want to hear a track that hasn't been released, because then I feel kind of special, and I'll kind of work that this rock star sent me their next thing. I mean, we're all human, I kind of dig it. And I really do I like downloads, because I'm I live and die by my iPod on airplanes. So I love downloading particularly one track, because then if I really like the track, because then I'm not listening to 16 tracks and deciding which ones I don't like. I'm listening to one track that I really, really, really like. I mean, years ago, I got a track from Said the Whale, and I think I'm the biggest Said the Whale fan in the world right now. Because they sent me one track and I went, oh my God, this is fantastic, and now I don't know how to get the other 15.
And it's the same, and it gets back, like, it's happened when I've asked for somebody to send me something, and there's an email with the link to the stuff before I leave the conference. I remember that, because it means that when they're going to go out and tour for us, or showcase for us, we know that they know what they're doing.
Right.
That it's not, it's a harsh world, and sometimes those little things can mean the difference of having an accepted showcase or a successful showcase, and one that isn't quite as successful. So that's the kind of stuff that I think is it's the old saying, it's the music business, it's all that kind of little stuff. So.
Great. We're just about out of time. Does anybody have any other types of questions whatsoever? Anything? Anybody prepping a showcase app and have a question?
Ours closed.
I kind of have a question in terms of when you were talking about checking out a showcase to kind of like observe and figure out what the environment's like. Is there a showcase that, like one of the showcases that would be kind of the best one to go to, or does it matter? Just go to one of them and
Depends
kind of see? Or?
It depends what market you want
Okay.
to. Yeah.
So you
So
kind of figure that out.
if you want to be touring in Alberta, that's where you should go to the showcase. If you want to be touring in Saskatchewan, that's where you should be going.
We will, just to take a second here, we'll put our money where our mouth is as far as as inviting people. Skip's got some brochures in that, and from OSAC's point of view, we want to tour Saskatchewan artists. We want Saskatchewan artists to showcase. So if you're able to come to Prince Albert, for the cost of the meals, we'll give you a delegate badge for the weekend. You don't have to be in the contact room. You can just take part. If you've got a place to stay up there or whatever, we'll gladly make you a full delegate for like $95 for the meals. That gets you like your banquet ticket and all your other stuff, 3 or 4 meals to schmooze with, and it'll give you a pretty good idea of what happens, and what our expectations are. And if you let us know you're coming, we'll try and we'll make it worth you. It helps a lot over the course of the years. So.
That's an incredibly generous offer, and if any of you can do it, you should take them up on it, because it's the most valuable learning tool that there is.
And when is that?
So Kevin, what is the savings on that?
I don't know, Skip.
$140, something like that?
So yeah, it's about, because our delegate badge is about $240 for Saskatchewan artists. Our meal costs are $95. So what we're asking you to pay is $95. You still have to get up there, you still have to get your hotel rooms, but we'll give you the delegate badge. And I don't know, Cecile, was it worth, it's a different experience, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's totally worth it. And I would advise, if you've never been to one, go out to one as an observer first.
Right.
Because if you get to a showcase, then you'll have prepared, you'll know exactly what's going on the first day from 8 a.m. to midnight.
Yeah.
And so you'll know how to manage your energy throughout the day and who to ask to come with you and so on.
And Cecile toured or showcased for us in 2010, and then we sent her to L'Orange in February, I think, wasn't it? And Shaunavon as well. So she had a couple of dates for us, and so yeah, but it's a big learning curve. So.
You spoke a little bit to quieter showcases. If you playing like a rock and roll type venue, would you find that that's still a translatable thing to your showcases, or would you bring like a parallel acoustic show to try and still show your music, but like, you know, with the addendum that it's actually can become a rock and roll show?
In our case, look at what we're touring right now
Okay.
and see if it fits.
Sure.
You know, we don't, as a rule, you know, rock bands, death metal bands, commercial country bands aren't what we tour. It's, you know, our presenters leave that for other presenters in their communities, and they tour the genres that aren't readily available: classical, jazz, singer-songwriter, folk music, things like that. So,
Any more questions?
When is the next one? Like you said, Prince Albert, and then the one after that? is-
in 2013, we'll actually be back in Regina,
Okay.
and I'm not saying we'll make exactly the same offer, but if you talk to me nice next year, I might be able to figure something out.
When is the one that's this year? Thank you.
We always try to be the third week in October, the week after Thanksgiving, in whatever week or whatever community we're in. And we try and rotate it around the province as much as we can, because we have our banquet Saturday night is around 250 people. We've outgrown a lot of the communities, and if you've all heard about the oil boom and potash boom and trying to find hotels in small towns, that's the issue we have too. So.
Any final thoughts from you guys? Anything you'd like to add?
No, I think this kind of stuff is really important, and I love doing this, and I love the fact that SaskMusic invited us, and I'd just like to thank you.
Thank you guys for coming.
And thank you guys all for coming out.
Yeah.
Thank you all. And please fill out your workshop surveys on the tables. Add anything you like. We'd like to hear what you thought of the workshop so we can plan the next ones. And please, whoever can make it out tomorrow night, we're doing our songwriting workshop at the Artful Dodger. It's going to be amazing, and if you can make it, that would be
Go
so.
see it. Del Barber is one of the
Del's
key
awesome.
songwriters in this country.
I will second that emotion.
Juno winner and Juno nominees.
Yeah, also, I've got some handouts. Where do you want us to put them? How about at the back?